Professor Jain, it's nice to meet you again, we have a long association. You had a very distinguished career as a social anthropologist. How did it all start?
Professor Maharaj, it's a great pleasure to be talking to you again, because we have been meeting at different parts of the world, during the diaspora thing. You see, it started with my interest in anthropology, history, and English literature, which were the three subjects I graduated in at Lucknow University in India. And then I did my PhD at the Australian National University in Canberra in anthropology and sociology. And at that time, I studied the Indian plantation workers, South Indian plantation workers in Malaysia. And that came out as a book both from Yale University Press, New Haven in London, and from University of Malaya Press in Kuala Lumpur.
You were subsequently appointed as a teacher and university professor in different parts of the world. Can you briefly talk about those experiences?
Actually, in today's age, when people are doing YouTube and Twitter and all this, I think my career was very height-bound, in the sense that after doing my PhD from Australian National University, I went to Oxford to teach at the university as university lecturer in the social anthropology of South Asia. And since I had not done field work in India at that time, I came to central India, to Madhya Pradesh, and made a study of the status and power equation in Madhya Pradesh, state of India. But then I went back to diaspora again, because I went to Trinidad and Tobago as a visiting professor at the University of West Indies. I went to Australian National University as a visiting professor again, after having done my PhD work there several years after that. And then I have been consistently with the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi, from which I retired in 2002. And in the meantime, I have published at least half a dozen books on diaspora, Indian diaspora, and a few books on anthropology and sociology in general.
I think one of your main areas of interest has been on what we call the old diaspora, or in my own personal experience and ancestry is the indentured diaspora.
Yes.
So you've got experience in Tobago, Trinidad, Fiji, and South Africa, and Malaysia. Can you offer some comparative reflections on your experiences?
Right. You see, I think there are people who have looked upon, especially Western scholars. There are exceptions, honorable exceptions, but there are, in general, the Western scholars have looked upon diaspora as a tale of woe and a tale of depression, whereas I find that in people like your namesake, Brij, who is from Fiji, he takes the view of challenge and response. So that the old diaspora, despite adversities, they stuck on to their roots and adapted to the new circumstances in a very challenging way. Whereas the new diaspora, the NRIs, and the people who are in the new technology and you see, these people have commodified nostalgia for India. So I think the contrast between the old diaspora and the new diaspora, people talk of the new diaspora all the time. I think they should look at the old diaspora and the way in which they adapted and succeeded in making a distressing situation honorable for themselves.
Yeah, I think the old diaspora placed a lot of emphasis on culture and religion. I think it's one of the factors that's common. And quite often visitors from India would say, listen, but we stopped doing these practices.
Yeah.
And there's a notion, for example, that the old diaspora are more Christian or more Hindu or more Muslim than the practices
And the practices
in India, especially Hindus, I think.
Right.
But the Indian government, I think, in the post-1990 period, is opening up to the world, etc., has been keen to reconnect the diaspora, primarily for investments.
Yes.
And clearly, the NRIs are the people who are in the commercial, technological, business world would seek such opportunities. Whereas the indentured diaspora live largely in the south. You're not looking at the dollars and pounds and euros. And then the globalization has also meant India is now famous in a positive sense. The QC,
Bollywood, cuisine, Bollywood, you see the type of English literature, English language literature which is coming out on diaspora in general, in fiction and so on and so forth. In a sense, I think, though I began by saying that the old diaspora and the new diaspora have a dividing line, but they are merging a lot today. And in fact, the diaspora, both the old diaspora and the new diaspora, is throwing up cultural patterns which are also very similar to the youth culture in India itself. So that with globalization, you see, there is a certain change which is coming about. I wouldn't sort of discount theories which say that globalization has been inimical to the growth of developing countries and so on. But on the other hand, culturally, if economically there are certain skewers here, culturally there is a certain leveling of the field, you see, which is very prominent.
Just to come back in terms of the exchange between the old diaspora, the new diaspora, and the reconnection, nature of connection with India. As you're well aware, if you look at the old diaspora, you find whether it's Trinidad or South Africa, Durban in particular, you'll find that caste has largely disappeared. And I always argue that if India wants to learn from the old indentured diaspora, then that's certainly something to think about. But my own experience is, as the new diaspora comes, like the NRIs in South Africa, they are trying to almost reintroduce caste in a society where it does not exist.
I see. This is a very interesting observation, and since Professor Maharaj, you have looked at diaspora both from the point of view of human geography, anthropology, political science, and so on, I remember you giving me self-goal book on the present regime in South Africa and so on. So I think this is a very salient observation in the sense that even in the United Kingdom today, there is a hot debate going on whether caste should be included in discriminatory practices in the legislation or not. And I think what you have found out in the microcosm of South Africa, the old diaspora, that the new diaspora is reintroducing or reinventing ideas of discrimination.
And I think, because I think the Indian practice is, like when I'm in India, outside among South African, but you're Indian, and they will want to know my ancestral roots, which just goes to Lucknow. And but the subtext, without asking me, is the NRI in South Africa or in the US or UK in particular is trying to re-establish my caste. They're not asking me directly.
No.
It's a code.
It's a
dance. But for South Africa, it will be dangerous because we come from a history of race discrimination, and we start introducing caste and religious discrimination in a community of 1.3 million people. We play on fire. But it's an interesting observation.
You see, I think, you see, when I first met you in Durban, we had a meal at your place which was exquisitely Indian cuisine and music going on, film music and so on, evoked memories of India and so on. See, I think in a sense, South African experience is very similar to the experience of diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. And I think, in a sense, what you are saying about reinvention of Indian traditions goes along with the old diaspora, and the new diaspora really reflects certain discriminatory practices which we are facing and trying to fight with in India itself.
You've got a long career, over 40 plus years, different parts of the world. What would you consider, Prof. Jain, to be the highlight of your career?
The highlight, actually, if you ask me, my experience of living for a year in Malaysia on the rubber plantation where the South Indian people who speak Tamil, which is a language very different from the Indo-European languages which I am born with, Hindi and so on, was certainly I wouldn't call it a traumatic, but a transformative experience for me. And therefore, I think that my classical book, the pioneering book on South Indians on the plantation frontier in Malaya, is something which is the highlight of my career still. But that is the anchor through which I have now looked at comparative diasporas, you see, all over the world.
You've had many senior positions beyond the research and scholarly roles. You've been in a Jain, etc. Reflecting back, what would you say is the state of higher education in India today?
You see, I think the higher education in India has been the victim of a certain mentality which I would say is populist, in the sense that the present regime, I don't hold a brief for it, nor do I really denounce it completely, but with the electoral democracy that we have, the allocation for education is divided unequally between the primary education, secondary education, and the higher education. And the higher education is really the recipient of a very meager sum. And there are certain institutes of learning like the IITs and the IIMs and so on, technical education, but the humanities are suffering, and the state universities especially have a very raw deal in the present setup. And the students are going in for either business or for management or for IT and so on and so forth.
I think it's a global phenomenon. I think it's also happening in South Africa. The neoliberal model basically focuses on technology and commerce. And I think in the social science and humanities, we are used to asking uncomfortable questions about inequality, social justice. And there's a tendency, indirectly, it's very subtle, and it starts with the budget. So you just keep on cutting down the budget. It means there less money available for research, for student enrollments, etc. And then you'll suddenly find how did we end up in a situation where we're no longer asking those critical questions. So in South Africa, they've actually set up I didn't get the name right, the center that's focusing on promoting the humanities again, because they've realized the past 20 years with budget cuts, there was a huge cost for that. But I think there's a global restructuring and commodification of higher education.
Right.
And maybe you might come to this year, we've had this huge debate and protest from all universities about the high cost of university education. And we have this mantra called fees must fall. And that has led to some debate about what's the alternate. And my thinking, and there are many other colleagues who are saying, we've got the internet, we've got YouTube, we almost have the next university, all you need is an internet access. Your comments on that, Prof. Jain?
I think you are on the ball really, when you talk about the alternative means of higher education. Because I was asked when I went to the People's Republic of China, I was asked by the media whether technology is the answer to the problems of developing countries and so on. And I said that, you see, the use you make of technology is of crucial importance. And what you are saying is precisely this, that we may sort of have a lot of debate on whether or not to give sufficient funds to higher education and so on. But we look at the alternative media, you see, which are free in many ways. And the digital divide may be for the lower levels of education and so on. But for the higher levels of education, there is absolutely no problem, in that way.
Yeah, I think almost every Indian has a cell phone, and some people are saying
Yes.
they have 2 cell phones. And even in areas where the connectivity is low, I think the cell phone companies and IT companies are working on getting access. So you may not have a direct landline, but you'll have a digital connection. I'm reminded of the connection, and I'm going to go back to what we call it mythology or mythical scriptures, because you have Dronacharya teaching Arjuna to be the best archer.
Yes.
And there is someone who was watching and you have Karna watching all of this, and he had the potential to beat Arjuna, and that was an alternative. He wasn't registered as a scholar of Acharya. But that's in closing. Any message you have for the new generation of PhD scholars in an environment where I think people are feeling a little bit despondent and less optimistic?
No, I think as it is, the diaspora experience, both academically and in terms of pragmatic life chances and so on, cuts both ways. From one point of view, the diasporics, people who are away from India, have left the pains of the mother country. On the other hand, they face a situation where multiculturalism is tinged with xenophobia in those circumstances. So there is an ambivalence, and I think rather than go in for the media hype about overseas Indians and NRIs contributing to the Indian economy, I think we people who are in higher education should look upon the whole scenario in a very balanced way and look at those aspects of globalization which can help us confront the challenges of the future. And that is the lesson of the diaspora, you see, which I find that even in general education, we should have a component, in India at least, I found in my country, that the diaspora in a balanced way, what we have been doing on comparative diasporas for a long time, should be incorporated into the understanding of the people. And it will find its reflection in the media, I'm sure. Once the general people, the general student population becomes well aware of, in a balanced manner, of what experience abroad means.
Yeah, I think there is this Hindu-philosophical approach, concept, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where the world is one family. And that message needs to go throughout the world, because that will reduce the focus on difference and especially the prejudice in terms of xenophobia, etc. The last point I want to make is I find that Indian scholars tend to be cited more when they leave India. So if you look at the famous Arjun Apudira, Ananya Roy, so Devon specialists, I follow the work more often. And one of my criticisms or concern is that a lot of PhD work is done in India it gets published in internal journals. And some of the Indian scholars are not publishing more internationally. And I think that's to their own peril, because in the global environment, we are trying to engage with scholarship from the global north and south. India has got a lot to offer. And perhaps we've got to look at ways in which we encourage the young scholars to publish in peer-reviewed work. And I think there's a demand for work by Indians on India, without being xenophobic. A lot of foreign scholars do a lot of work and become specialists on India, when the Indian specialists themselves are located within the country.
Well, thanks for this suggestion, and I think we try to publish abroad, but at the same time there's a lot of stuff which needs to be given to the students here. And
yeah, no, but I think with a population of 1.2 or 1.3 billion, you've got your leadership here. Thanks a lot, Prof. Jain, for this interview and opportunity to talk and reconnect. Namaste.